playing is going to play their best game, and I don't care if you go and play them and you're 16 and up, they're 3 or 14. If they're playing at home and playing their best game, you could be in trouble. That's one of the great things about playing. So here we're going to do in the 50s. We're finishing up Scio. They're going to make the last of their 6 dual championships in a row, 45 through 50. Freeport knocked Scio off in the first game of the tournament that year by 20 points, and I'm sure everybody breathed a relief of Scio. You know, it's Scio, I got that backwards, vice versa. But Scio is back in 52, taking both championships. 1953, the Jewett Wildcats upset an undefeated Scio team in the tournament championship game. Both get to go to the sectional though. Jewett has a great 3-year run here. You see these dynastic, have great athletes. Jewett goes to the sectional tournament 53, 54, 55. Conotton Valley moves into their gym 54, 55. They promptly win the county tournament title. And then they're going to win every other year, 55, 57, 59, 61. And Freeport had dual titles in 51, 56, and 58, as you can see there. So all the teams except Franklin and Hopedale having fine runs during the 1950s after Scio got done putting a stranglehold on the tournament and league title forever. The very first edition of the Conotton Valley Rockets tied for the league title, 9-1 with the Freeport team, and they went 18-3 in a regular season. Obviously, if you go 9-1, you split with the team that you tied with, and they would go 18-3 in a regular season. They split with Augusta and Freeport, and they lost the game at Midville. Midville and Strasburg were great powers throughout the history of the Tuscarawas County tournament. Always tough to beat. And then there's that word again. Conotton Valley got upset in the semifinals by Hopedale. Consequently, this team doesn't get to go to sectional play. That's what the whole county tournament is. You make it to that championship game, you get to go on to the sectional and represent the county at the sectional level. Coach Samuel's no stingy Scio Panthers are back again in 1952 with Dick Buskew and Bob Bundy. Bob Bundy is holding the ball right there, and Buskew, I believe, is right beside him, number 4. And this team goes 20-5, and that's about what the average for his 7 years was. In 51, when Freeport won dual titles, Coach Samuels and the Scio, they had their only down year when he was there. They were 8-13 that year, and they lost 6 games by 2 points or less, and another one by 3. But in the tournament, first game of the tournament, Freeport lost them by 20. But then this year, Scio was going to beat Freeport by 20. Exact same score, as a matter of fact. So the Panthers are back with a vengeance in 1952. Dick Hugh and Bob Bundy both made honorable mention All-Ohio this year. So they have a couple really good players. In Scio, the way you get to be honorable mention All-Ohio back in this era is getting to the sectional. Because more newspapers, more coaches get to see, and that's who's voting on these mythical All-Ohio teams. It really, really helps if you go to the sectional 2 or 3 years in a row. So this team here went 20-5, and they won dual championships, going 9-1. And you can see who they're playing there. The 1950 team, the went undefeated with Bob Hugh. I didn't have it up there. It's later in the slide because I didn't want to sit through every one of these. But like I said, you had the bullseye on your back. Bob Hughes senior year and Gordy Bauer, when they went 20-0, they had 4 games that they won by 1 point during the regular season. You know, so it's not an easy thing to do. And this team here goes 20-5, lost some really a couple close games there, and then won their first game at the sectional over at St. Clairsville. And you see the sectional moving around because St. Clairsville had the largest gym in our area at that time period, and they want to be able to host the largest crowd ever. 52-53, Scio team goes undefeated, and they win 1 tournament game, and then the Wildcats from Jewett upset them in the county championship game, 73-72. And we saw earlier on that site where the Jewett Wildcats are going to have 3 very good years, 53, tournament. They won their final league title in 54 and 55. They'll upset a Freeport team that was undefeated in league play in the first round of the county tournament. And go to the sectional tournament for 3 consecutive years. And this 53 team is under one coach, Stanley Strait, and then the next year they had Lynn Monster was there. So they actually improved a bit. But this is the box score for this game in which Jewett had lost to the Scio team and twice during the regular season. And if you're going to win one, you want to win the county tournament championship game. And they built a 12-point lead at halftime, and it's cut to 7 at the end of the third, as you can see there for yourself. And Scio shot much better from the field, but Jewett had 30 field goals, and Scio only had 22. Another odd thing happened in this tournament in 1953. In the first game of the tournament, Freeport outscored Hopedale 40-25 in the fourth quarter to beat them by 3. And 40 points in a quarter is unbelievable. Well, that record lasted exactly an hour and a half because Jewett's first game, they were losing to Franklin by 5 points at halftime, 40-35. And the coach must have really gave them a talking to because they come out in the third quarter and outscored Franklin 43-6. They had been 12 trailing, and they would go on to beat them, outscored them by 71-19 in the second half. And those 40-point quarters are interesting, and I actually sent those to the website out at the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and those are on the website now. So you go on there and look at the records, but 40-point quarter is unreal. They happen, but they're very, very unreal. Very rare, I guess I should say. There's that game I was talking about, Franklin, the game 106-59. They were trailing in that game, 35-40 at half. And they come out and just blitz them. And then they upset the undefeated Scio Panthers. Go to the sectional meet, and they do very well. And Jewett gets beat by Strasburg by 2 points. And then Scio would go on, and they would play Strasburg in the championship game, and they'd get beat by 4 points. And like I said, they got 59-57 in this game, and the other game for Scio is 59-55. So these teams were very good because the Strasburg team won more district titles than any other team in Central County during the county tournament era. This is that team that went 20-0. They're going to end up with a 24-2 record because they lose that tournament championship game. And like I said, they're going to get knocked out by Strasburg in the district championship. The 53 team and the 49 Scio teams got beat in the district championship game, but the 1950 undefeated Panther team that was 24-0 got beat in the first district game by Strasburg. They didn't make it, so it's very tough to make it to the district championship game, let alone win. The entire history of the Harrison County basketball, there's only been 5 boys teams to win district titles. And 1938, Caddis did it, and we're going to see here later on that the second team to do it will be Conotton Valley in 1965. One of my favorite box scores on the stat freak. Scio scores only 9 points in this sectional championship game. However, they win 9-4. So, yeah, this is the last game that sectional tournament game Scio ever won. And read the game wrap up and stuff. Lafferty had lost the center, who was their leading scorer in the game before this. They decided to hold the ball. When they got the ball in the second and third period, they held it for 1 shot. And they didn't have to dribble it or do anything. And of course, the rules were changed after this. This is happening all over the state. Stogie Yobi was their Marcus Haynes of the day. And said, well, he was putting on a dribbling show. He was popcorn with a fan, everybody singing and things like this. But you look here, Lafferty took 7 shots from the field, and Scio took 9. But Scio was on fire and hit 3 of them. And Lafferty only hit the 1. This is an actual scorebook sheet of the Scio 9 points that you can see there. And this is in the old Freeport scorebooks when they went to sell off the Lakeland stuff in 1999 when they formed Harrison Central. They had a bunch of old scorebooks up there, and they wanted to know if I'd want them. I go, once a year, throw them away. And they had this I think Mr. Roman went down to the sectional game and kept this in the Freeport book. I do that often too. That way I go to the game free. You know what I mean? So. The Scio had 2 personal fouls, as you can see there, but it might be the lowest scoring tournament game in history. I know there's a 2-0 regular season game, but a tournament game is 9-4, and you know they really blitzed them in that last quarter with a 4-0 margin that we saw there. You know, and you know they only hit the 3 of 6 at the free throw line, but they hit 2 of 2 in the last quarter. That's all counts. As we were talking, the Wildcats had very good back-to-back seasons in 53 and 54. 54, they set a school record with 21 victories. The year before, they went 19-6, so they're going to play 26 games both these seasons, which is really good. And these guys were outstanding in 6-man football and also in baseball. Harrison County started a high school Hall of Fame in 2000. Several of the players that are listed here, they're in the Harrison County Hall of Fame, and not just for basketball. Some of them for football, some of them for baseball. And of course, those great Scio teams from 45 to 50 had outstanding baseball teams and outstanding football teams. Freeport-Lakeland never had an outstanding football team. They never had football. And I like getting these photos, even though they're in the paper, they're a little scratchy sometimes. My cat's taken right after the victory. You know what I mean? So it's kind of great. And for me, they linger a little bit too long, but I had somebody at the last presentation said they needed to be longer. So they changed coaches and didn't miss a beat. This 1953-54 team, they lost to Flushing twice, who had a first-team All-Ohio center, Carter Howell, who's 6'5", and Boyd would beat them 55 in the district tournament. Who was a tremendous ball player, just scored under 2,000 points in his senior year. Carter Howell, 54-55, was one of 3 players in the state to average over 40 points a game. But this Jewett Wildcat team played them very tough, both games. They also played the Holiday Tournament, as you can see down there at Jewett on the 29th of December and the 30th. Stone Creek was actually outstanding in the 50s. They used to be like Franklin in the touchstone County tournament history. They, they're not any good. But in the 50s, the Stone Creek teams were actually really good. And there were several teams up there at Touchstone County really good. And that makes everybody else better. So when you move on, you get out of your area, you might have a better chance of winning because your games are tougher within your league than once you get beyond it. Jewett Gym that was just raised, was that last month? And there's a photograph of it from the Freeport Press. Its dimensions are almost the same as the Franklin Gym, which was built the same year. And neither one of those gyms hosted the tournament. Because in 54-55, the Conotton Gym opened. And the gym, the seating that we can see in the foreground there is not bleacher seating, and that's why you can see more in the Conotton Gym, is because they had, in 54-55, they went to the newer bleacher seating. You get a lot more. Right there's a photograph of it. 1954-55, they're going to win the tournament every other year. 55, 57, 59, and 61. And you can see on those wooden bleachers I was just talking about. And they would defeat Jewett in a championship game. Both would go on to represent the county at the sectional, and that's because the Freeport team went 10-0 in league play, and then Jewett beat them by 20 in the opening game. However, the entire 54-55 season, Freeport's coach kicked his best player off the team before he started because general lack of enthusiasm and lack of obeying training rules. And Lloyd Bueller, the year before, had averaged about 18 points a game. And he didn't get to play at all in 54-55. The team responded and went 10-0, and then John Coots, Big John Coots, when they beat Freeport, upset him in that game, opening game in the 1955 tournament, set the county record at 40 points in the tournament game. And I believe he was 16 and 22 at the line. Usually big men don't shoot that well from the line, but that's a pretty decent shooting percentage. And this is that Wildcat team I was just talking about. And they won their 3rd consecutive Barr berth in the sectional tournament. And then if you need me to get out of the road, these are up there quite a bit for a while. I mean, and then they were upset. It could be an upset, but the Freeport team was 10-0 lead playing, and they left the tournament title to the Rockets and the Wildcats. And it was a Donnybrook, as you saw on the other side. It was 65-61, and they both advanced to the sectional to represent the county. And that would be 3 straight berths for the Wildcats. In 56, Freeport and Hopedale will go to the sectional. Then in 1957, when Conotton Valley started that biennial thing where they went to the tournament every year, 1957, Conotton Valley will go to the sectional tournament 6 straight years, which is exciting as far as a coach or a team or high school. Yeah, you want to win the county tournament championship game, but you also would like to go on and have a second chance in the sectional tournament. So like I said, sometimes your county's basketball play is stronger than it is in the other counties at your sectional. So here we are in 1956-57. Conotton goes 15-6, and like I said, they're in the midst. They're going to begin this 6-year run of winning county tournaments. Another noteworthy thing at this time, it's one of the slides I took out because it's going to be long enough because these teams are this successful. This is the last year you have the 6-foot lane. Next year you get a 12-foot lane. And also what happens in 57-58 with that 12-foot lane, before that, you'd have one offensive and one defensive player down. So if you see where a team missed a free throw prior to 1957, and somebody put it back up and in, it's probably the guy who's down on the low block right next to the hoop, you know what I mean? So 57-58, you go to 12-foot lane, and the 2 defensive guys are down low, and you shoot the free throw. Rockets are qualifying again for the sectionals, the second of a 6-year run like we talked about. They're doing really well, and they lost in overtime to Powhatan in the sectional championship game. The Powhatan Indians had a set of brothers, the Wiley brothers, who were really good ball players, playing down there, and to lose to a team in overtime, I mean, that's no, nothing to cry, not cry over, because like I said before, like, playing and winning is what you want to do, and playing and doing well, even though you would lose, is the next best thing. Hey, we're up to 3 basketballs. Although Jewett got one here in 41, they had 8. When Max Baker was holding that one, like he was like almost done in the defensive team, they had 8 basketballs in the photograph. And they're wearing white shoes, except number 5 clear on the right looks like he has black shoes. I think sometimes it's always interesting to look at the any of the other dress as well too, because the guy on the left looked like he had loafers on with tube socks, white socks. You know. This is the 3rd tournament title. They won in 55, 57, 59. Still only 2 basketballs. And this team is highly unusual, and I'll tell you why. In 1959, with all the consolidations going on all over the state, 1959, the East District was permitted 3 teams to go to the regional. For years and years, they were only allowed 2. This team from Conotton Valley will end up, when the record comes up, you will see they lost 2 district championship games. Instead of having 3 brackets going, they had their usual 2, nobody planned ahead, and the 2 teams that got beat in the regular district championship games ended up beating again, and they used to, I think the game is up at Dover in our area, and they used to play alternate between Zanesville and Marietta, and then the 2 losers from those 2 brackets met and played in Denison. And Conotton Valley would lose to Midville, and they would lose to Old Washington. Old Washington was undefeated until they got beat in the district championship game, so you can see there that Conotton Valley had a little bit of luck along the way. It always takes a little bit of luck. Talked about the 1950 Scio team going undefeated, having 4 1-point wins. The great tournament run here, you have 2 overtime wins. Of course, beating Jewett in the county tournament championship game, they wouldn't have advanced to the sectional, but it gives you, puffs you up a little bit. They had, not, the first round game, it was pretty easy to beat Highland in overtime. In their first district game, 82-81. And Midville, which had a powerhouse, defeats them. And then Old Washington got beat down in Marietta. So the two losers are meeting in at Emerson and Old Washington, which had won 28 in a row before they got beat in that district championship game down there. And they come back with a bid this year. So Conotton Valley, that's actually not a regional game, but two district championship games, if you will. The Wildcats are back again. 59-60, they're gonna go represent Harrison County. In 1959, we saw earlier that the Rockets beat them. However, their championship game was set up because the Wildcats defeated Freeport in their first tournament game. Freeport had played in the opening round, and they went 9-1 in league play and had the great Jim Houston, who averaged over 30 points a game, and the Wildcats held him to 7 points. And they beat him 50-45. And Jim Gross, who later goes to Conotton Valley and Jewett Scio, played on that team. And when Jewett Scio was defeated in 1981, Dave Jones was averaging over 30 points a game. Jim Houston's younger brother, Terry Houston, was playing on that Lakeland team that knocked them out of the tournament. So that's a little bit of historical irony. So 59-60, Conotton Valley and Jewett are waging a two-year war. Freeport won the title, 9-1. Both these teams tied for second at 6-4. They put together a really good show. We got an overtime game there, a real battle. In 1959, Conotton, as we saw, went all the way, played two sort of district championship games. And then those two teams will be back again. And it's I just finished my first volume on the boys state basketball tournament. You get in these tight games, you got to be able to shoot free throws. If you're looking at first game, Jewett was 7-20 for the free throw line. That's not very good, obviously. And then the following year, Conotton Valley goes 2-0 in league play. Obviously, Jewett has 2 losses. They'll lose to them twice during the regular season. And then they win the one that really counts is the county tournament championship by 51-45 count. Once again, you have a good game. Conotton Valley was down by 8 at halftime, pulled within 1, and then the Jewett team was able to pull the upset. Jewett had a very good record in 1960, but like I said, they had lost 2 games to Conotton Valley, and the Conotton Valley 10-0 record. They won 2 really close games against Freeport that year to finish undefeated. The 1950s, all league and all tournament teams. In the 30s and 40s, we had this first and second team, and honorable mention. By this time, it becomes pedestrian, and sometimes they'll name a second team, tournament team, but most of the time throughout the 50s, they're only naming a first team, all league, all tournament. And but they were kind of very good about it, because if they thought a lot of times that they only list 5 players because that's how many's on the team. But some years they expanded to 6 or 7, so they actually divided it where talent, may be, which is a good thing. And as I said, anybody that has a 2 or 3 by their name, that's a repeat. The number that they repeated in the postseason honors. You can see that from 55 on, Conotton Valley's playing really well, especially in tournament play. Scio had big hurrah in 50 and 52 and 53. You see they had multiple players named. And then the Jewett, 53, 54, 55, they go to the sectional 3 straight years. And then also in 52, they had a couple players in 58 where they get postseason honors, and again in 59. But that just gives you an idea of the better players at that time period. We're in the last run of the county tournament. It only lasts till 1964. We already saw the box score where Jewett would beat Conotton Valley by 6 points. And that would be Jewett's 4th and final title. It's the second time that Conotton Valley was runner-up, although Bowerson would go 3-2 in the tournament, and Conotton Valley 4-3 in the tournament title games. And you can see Conotton Valley finally ends their 7-year run in 1963 when Lakeland and Hopeville both go to the sectional tournament. And then the quintessential upset is 1964 when Franklin upsets Lakeland in the semifinals, who's the #1 seed, 10-0, and then Scio beat Conotton Valley, who was 8-2 and finished second in the league. They upset the number 1, number 2 teams by 1 point each in the semifinal, and then they played that game 63-58, which is also another really good show for the fans. In that tournament, in 63-64, we're at the Caddis Gymnasium with the John Stevenson Center that's still there today. And all the district games that were being played up at Dover was at Memorial Hall, which is still being used. It opened in 1922, so it's been there quite a while. And this is just a photograph of that 1960 10-0 team that was upset by Jewett in the title still. And they have two assistants going with the one coach. I'm getting that guy here, really sorry. And when things are going well, you have plenty of managers, plenty of coaching. And at the white at the end, you see like that's from the 1960 Harrison County League Tournament Program. That's the source of all my stuff on this up here, like it said, the Caddis Republican, or the Scio Herald, where it had the yearbooks listed. That's where they're all from. I guess I could take a drink of water, not the coffee. They're down to 1 ball. Did you see that? Down to 1 ball. And here's their record. Last game of the season against Oakdale, which had been postponed, they ran up the school record 120. The Rockets did. And as you can see, although they get upset by Jewett in that tournament championship game, they go on to Brilliant, which is Brilliant had built a new gymnasium, the auditorium gymnasium that held about 2,000 people. So they moved the district tournament from down there at St. Clairsville to Brilliant. And St. John Arena Steubenville, I believe, opened in 58, but they don't start hosting events. I think they host the 1960 district championship game there, which Highland played in. And then from then on till the 90s, we see that St. John Arena hosting the district tournament games more often than not because they want to try to maximize the attendance. 1960 team, Conotton Valley 10-0, upset in the tournament championship game. However, in 1961, Freeport went 19-1 and was upset in their first game by Oakdale. Consequently, we'll see that Conotton Valley Rockets will be back in as champions in 1961. Here's the Jewett, probably the last great Jewett team. And I say that because they win the county tournament title, and then also they have a really good tournament record after that, you know what I mean? Dan Brown kind of set things on fire in the 70s, but they'll lose out in the first tournament game. So the really, really great teams, not only successful in the regular season, they have a pretty good tournament run. And, every time you win a tournament game, half the teams in the state division are getting knocked out. So, that just makes you that much better as far as goes. And nationally, the state tournament was actually started in 1909 in Ohio Wesleyan University. And the reason is the coaches there, they wanted more competition. Well, any tournament, the further you go along, even if the team doesn't have as good a record as the last team, they're there for a reason. And your competition is going to be push you to be more than just competitive. It's going to see how good you can be. So here's the 1960 Jewett team. And as I said, their last great team, because you can see there that they finished second in the league, 8-2, but they had a great tournament one where they won a sectional title, and then they lose to Highland, who went on to the regionals that year. So they have a 4-1 record in the entire tournament, play county tournament. And Ray Patterson was also named an honorable mention All-Ohio, a great player for the Wildcats. And once again, they're playing down there at the holiday tournament at Denison this time. And just a few, they got a 1 point loss late in the season at Jefferson Union. Them and Springfield both play in the big school division tournament at this time period. And that's another thing, when there's only 2 divisions, the other thing, you're going to be playing the small schools. If we're in the small school division, which all the schools were, including Caddis, but teams like in Jefferson County or Tuscarawas County, if they wanted to be better, they wanted to play the larger teams, since it's in the center of Yerkesville, because first thing, they have larger floors. So when you get to tournament time, the floors are going to be larger. So that's why, Denison was never hurt for opponents, because everybody always wanted to go play there, because they, at that time period, had the largest floor. Until New Philadelphia built their gym in 1959. So this is the 5th consecutive run for those Conotton Valley Rockets, who, at this time period, they actually have a very good record in sectional play. And then we will see in the 65 season, which is probably one of the greatest seasons in McNeil's and Harrison County basketball, where they'll go to the regional finals and be 69 seconds away from the state tournament to the eventual state champion. That's always, even though you lose, you think that you might have done as well as they do. George Kurtz, there in the center, number 55. Anybody have an idea how tall he was? Anybody here from Conotton Valley? They list him at 6'8". I don't know. Usually they lie about their height. He's a pretty big boy, wasn't he? Like I said earlier, some of the newspapers, it was great when there was more dailies. When we go back in time, obviously this is 62 years ago now, but the Yerkesville Denison Evening Chronicle, they covered the Harrison County League quite religiously, and so did the Times-Leader down in Martins Ferry. Martins Ferry actually started naming a postseason team for the 4 counties they cover, Harrison County and Jefferson, Belmont, and Monroe County in 1946, and they were quite generous always with the Harrison County selections down there, as long as the coaches reported and stuff. But these are just the scores from Harrison County League, and that's their scoring in league games only. The high that they had out there is in league games, and the paper didn't have that. I had to go through and find every one of those. But Conotton Valley had 5 players in double digits, and Jewett did too. And that's the ideal situation for a coach. That way, when you end up having too much of your offense relying on one player, if he gets sick, injured, or they shut him down, what are you going to do? So, ideal situation for a coach. If I got 5 guys in double figures, that's fantastic. Or extremely balanced scoring, you know what I mean? So we're at the end of this great Conotton Valley run, 6 straight years where they will go to sectional play. And once again, they win the league title at 8-2, but they get upset in the tournament championship game, but they get to go represent the team. Lakeland upset this team in the championship game, and the tournament was being played at Lakeland that year. The Lakeland Gymnasium opened 61-62. And at the time, at one time in the season here, Conotton Valley was 4-2, and Lakeland, who ended up with a 9-11 record, Conotton was 4-2 in the league play, and Lakeland was 5-1. Well, Conotton won their last 4 games, and Lakeland lost 3 of their 4. And they finished actually 3rd. Conotton went 8-2, and Jewett, I think it was, went 7-3, and Lakeland finished at 6-4. So, sometimes within the season, things just change that dramatically. So this team, league champs, they only have 3 regular season losses. They lose at Highland by 2, but unfortunately Highland's on their way to a state final championship game where they would be state runners-up, and the Rockets face them in the district tournament. You see they're playing the sectional games at Brilliant, and then also the district. The district used to bounce back and forth between Brilliant and Dover Memorial Hall. Although the Philly gym would hold more than either one of them, so it's kind of odd that they weren't playing there yet. But, the traditions die hard. But yeah, they had George Kurtz listed at 6'8", and Russ Gardner at 6'4", so I don't know. That's a 6'8". If he is 6'8", that's the tallest player I know of that played ball in Harrison County, and I believe Dick Spiker over here at Scio was 6'7". Played on that in that 50 through 52, I think, or 50 a little bit later than that. He was 6'7". other guys that they listed Kurtz at 6'8", and I find when I did my state tournament book, most of the coaches are listing the guys at 2 inches shorter than what they were, because then when you go to the opposing paper or the state program, the guy's 2 inches taller than he was that the coach reported, which is kind of interesting. Here we are, one of the greatest teams in Harrison County boys basketball history. This is after the Rockets win the district championship. Jim Monagold, this photograph in the Evening Chronicle was not identified, and he was able to identify the guys in it for me. And you know, it's sort of haphazard since it's not in any order, but I think if you sort through it on this or in the book, you can see where everybody is. Coach Harold Jacobs led this team. He's sitting right down here, down front. Coached over at Conotton Valley for 3 years, 64, 65, and 66. And his 65 and 66 teams would go undefeated in league play, and no other team had did that since the 49-50 Scio Panthers led by Bob Pugh and Gordy Bauer. You know, it's the only time, 2 times in the history of the Harrison County Basketball League that the teams went back-to-back undefeated. That's the qualifier, undefeated. One of the greatest games played in the East District basketball history is this game right here. It was a triple overtime game, which is actually played at New Field now. We finally got it to, you know, this is just a sectional. And the number 2 in front of Conotton Valley and the number 3 in front of Denison, there's 18 teams at this sectional. It's like a super sectional. And I believe Garrett was number 1 seed, and Midville might have been the number 4 seed. So the 1 and the 4 seed was probably in the other bracket. And then you can see this game here. St. Mary's rebounded the Rockets by 12. The Rockets shot a little bit better from the field. Free throws nearly even. It is a game that everybody talks about. The attendance they have on me is 2,700 plus, sold out. The only other time I wasn't at this game, I wasn't born yet. But I remember when we played Jewett, Scio, and Dave Jones, when you went out in the lobby up there in New Philly for that game, you could not walk. It was that crowded. And when you went inside, you couldn't move around. You could not move. People were sitting where you're supposed to walk up the bleachers and everything else. And I'm sure this was just like that. And we talked about that, you know, to have an undefeated team or to go far in the tournament. We saw that 1959 Conotton team had 2 overtime victories. We had this triple overtime win here in the sectional championship game that propels Conotton Valley Rockets all the way to the regional finals, where they are defeated by Northwestern by 1 point in the last 69 seconds. Conotton Valley had a 41-34 lead, and Northwestern went on to win the state championship that year. Outstanding team, obviously, lost to Midville in overtime by 1. And with Highland, and in the first game of the sectional, they had knocked Highland off by 15 points after losing during the regular season. Those wins are always nice. 66, they go undefeated in league play again. 14-4 overall. They get blitzed against Strasburg during the regular season. Conotton Valley is the defending district champs in the sectional game against Strasburg. It seems like Charlie Huggins' first year at Strasburg, the officials are favoring him, and the Tigers end up pulling out a double overtime victory. And this isn't the year that Strasburg goes to the state, it would be the next year. But like I say, when you're a team that is highly successful, you're going to get the best effort from every team you face. And it's hard to maintain that excellence for an entire season. And the one way to do it is to play defense. Lee Heminger, Irisville, he took 3 teams to state championship, 57, 61, 62. They had a 57-game win streak. He said, you got to be able to play defense because some night you might not be able to shoot the ball. So how are you going to win? You know, it's pretty obvious. The last hurrah for the Scio Panthers, 1967. That 65 Conotton team, there's no longer a county tournament. That's why we're going straight to the sectional. We're still in 2 divisions. There's only 2 divisions. We won't go to 3 divisions till the 70-71 season. This Scio Panther team was the last one in their school's history to win the league title. They go 9-1. Somehow they get blitzed by a Lakeland team that went 6-4. But then when Lakeland comes over to Scio, I think the Panthers will see the record here in a minute, beat them like by 29. However, the difference I was talking about between a championship or not, you may not want to play what if or not, but they're friendly rivals, the Jewett Wildcats. The title was actually between them. And Conotton Valley was tossed in there too in '67. But Jewett's going to go 7-3 in league play, and Scio went 9-1. However, Scio beat Jewett twice during the regular season in very close games, 62-61 at Jewett. Even though Scio hit a great 4-14 at the line, they pull out the game. And then in '67, when they were at Scio, on February 3rd, Scio takes the 2-point game. That middle game, if Jewett had won that, they both ended up tying for the league title 8-2. But instead, Scio ends up 9-1, and Jewett ends up 7-3. But Jewett has its revenge in the sectional game, where they take revenge over Scio, which was the number 4 seed up there at the Philly sectional, which had about 15 or 16 teams, and finally beat the Panthers after the 1-point loss and 2-point loss in the sectional tournament game. They defeated by 14 points with a great run in the last quarter, outscoring 25-16. And these box scores and several other ones I have here are in great detail. They're in the book. And even some from the 20s are in there. There's a lot of great detail given to the 20s and 30s. Because like I say, if as a historian I don't get it there for us to see or speak, nobody will ever see it. And like I said, also unfortunately, there's no Scio Herald microfilm from the 30s and 40s. The papers and the bound copies were actually waterlogged or whatever, somehow destroyed and lost. So we're winding down the league play. 65-66, we saw Conotton was undefeated. Scio Panthers win the title in '67. In '68, '69, and '70, the league title goes through Freeport. Lakeland will win it every year. They tied with Oakdale in '68. They tied with Conotton Valley in '69. Both teams go 9-1. This is interesting. Conotton loses their first sectional game. They go 15-4. They go over to Freeport, the last regular season game of the year, and Conotton Valley's 9-0, and Lakeland's 8-1, having obviously lost over Conotton Valley. And if Lakeland has to pull out the victory in order to have a co-championship. They had a 3-year starter, Jeff Backel. After the 6th game of the season, the first one he missed was against Conotton Valley, and the Raiders were beaten 70-62. He has a back injury, misses 10 games, and the Lakeland team goes 18-2. So we're going back to Freeport, and the Willie Intelligence are ready to preview this. This is how big this game was at the time period. And there was standing room only, sort of like the Scio Panthers that Bob B told me about. It was sold out. They locked the doors, and the Lakeland team pulled out the victory. Coach Huggins designed the defense to stop Denny Leister. They only had 7 points. They were double and triple teaming. And Lynn Arnold hit a career high 25 points, including 10 field goals. It was a very ball control possession type game. And if you'll notice, only 2 players from each team shot free throws. Bob Huggins was a freshman, and John Nine was a senior. Denny Leister was a senior, as was Lynn Arnold, and they were Lynn Arnold and Denny Leister were first team all-county picks. And Lakeland was up by 1 at halftime, was able to hold off Conotton Valley in the second half. Gary Cabot was the coach at this time, and he always told me about, he goes, you got to do something about me, because I probably had more wins from anybody in the area against Charlie Huggins, and he has about 5 or 6 of them, which is quite a bit, because Charlie only lost 75 games in 20 years. But the JV game was just as exciting as the varsity. We're over at Freeport, and Rockets won that one, 40-42. So you've got the 1960s. We're still naming an all-tournament team up through 64, and then after that, they expanded the teams. They had been just putting 5 players on a team. In 1965, they had the coaches voting, and then you could submit players on a ballot, and the coaches would vote. And if the players got enough vote, they named a first and second team. So it was really kind of nice. A great Conotton Valley team had 3 guys named the first team in 1965. Jim Monagold, Kenny Beamer, Danny Smith. Robert said to use be a little bit of irony here and say they were repeat offenders. They show up more than once. And you can see the players from Jewett. So by going to a first and second team, we're giving it a pretty good sample of the basketball talent. And plus, there's still 6 teams playing. You know, when you start shrinking teams, you know, and you name too many people. Jim Allensworth was a first team, all league player 2 straight years, which is quite a feat. And we got a few more seasons. I go right up to 72, and then there's some other slides you can watch, and we can ask questions, or we'll be adjourning. The league played all the way up till 71, and I have just a little bit from 72 because there's a bunch of players that played in the league in 71 that played on 72 teams, and there would be a repeat of that great Conotton Valley Lakeland game in 69, also in 1972. I dropped some of my gun. But 1970, the Times Reporter in Tuscarawas County, there is a heated scoring race between Jewett's Dan Brown, Bob Huggins, and they both averaged every 30 points a game that season. As did a player from Tuscarawas County. Does anybody know who it was?
Gene Ford.
That is correct. It was Gene Ford's senior year in Valley North. And he finished third in scoring to 2 Harrison County players. How could that happen? You know what I mean? And what's interesting is that North played both of these teams. So they were always trying to do a one-up. So Dan Brown always got in foul trouble against North. And you'll see he was kind of more erratic. But here we go. After 10 games, Dan Brown's out in front, and you can look at those scores back and forth here, where Huggins would take the lead, scoring-wise, and then Dan Brown. Huggins was ahead, 257 and 224, and then one weekend there, Dan Brown had back-to-back 50-point games. That just came up there. He had 50 and 58. You know, so he cut that. He went from having a 33-point deficit to being ahead by 14. He outscored him by 47. But the thing is, Huggins didn't drop below 30. You know what I mean? So then we're going to see where they keep going back and forth here, and who finally wins this scoring race. Gene Ford would end up third, by the way. He averaged 30.6. And this whole time while this race is going on, the ultimate for the coaches and the fans is you want to win the league title. Well, they're both in the hunt. Conotton Valley is going to end up 8-2 in the league, and Dan Brown and the Jewett Wildcats will go 7-3 because they lose 2 very close games to Lakeland. And the Lakeland team went 9-0 in league play and didn't lose until they lost their last one over Conotton Valley. So Lakeland would win the title with a 9-1 record. Conotton Valley would be 8-2, and Jewett Wildcats would be 7-3. And you can see here that Dan Brown's still having a lead, although Huggins has cut into a bit. And now, here at the end of January, Huggins is back in the lead. They're going to play the same amount of games. So you have Dan Brown at 494 for the regular season, and his team had beat Conotton Valley 76-75 to get them back into the league playoff hunt there, the league title. So we're going into the last week here, and Bob Huggins is down by 18 points. And actually, they had a Saturday game, so they got 1 game to go. Dan Brown has scored 571 in 17 games, and Bob Huggins is behind by 5. And Dan Brown scores 42, so Huggins would have to score 47. He's only had 1 game above that. He doesn't. He only scores 27. However, they handed Lakeland their first league loss. So I'm sure anybody would rather do that And another thing I've started studying since I've done the research for the state tournament book is it's like the baseball batting average. The percentage of a team's offense. So you just take the points that each one of these guys scored and you divide it by the team points. And if it's above 400, that guy's providing a lot of offense. That's not necessarily a good thing. There's a lot of pressure on the player, like I talked about earlier. If the team's able to shut him down, or if he gets injured or sick, I mean, how are you going to make up for that? Jewett went down to Steubenville. They lost to Dillonville after having a 15-point lead in the third quarter, and then Bob Huggins scored 100 points in 3 sectional tournament games up there. Either Dover or Philly, they used to swap that back and forth. These are the league titles that we talked about earlier, and it's going backwards for us. Anybody that's in italic and underlined, that's those dual titles that we talked about. That only happened 16 times out of the 35 seasons that it ran concurrently in the league with the county tournament. We are almost done. And I'll tell you one thing, I cut 45 slides out of this. If you want me to come and speak at an alumni event, I'll break it down and have your school only. You know what I mean? And it'll be much shorter. I mean, when I was trying to cover 3 schools and you can see all the successes that they had, you know, I went through and I cut 40 slides out of both these already, so it's like, you know, tried to bear it down as best I could. But the italic underline indicates teams that had won, dual titles, and you can see the 40s was where that happened more often than not. And you can see that quite a bit, quite a few times that the teams didn't. Here are the scoring that I went through and did. I didn't find this anywhere, but we had the consolidations, Jewett and Scio together, and then Hopedale and New Athens go to Caddis. And I thought it'd be neat to go through the guys who played in the league in '71 that are still around playing, see what they did against the other schools. Mike Monagold missed the game, obviously, but at least everybody played 4 games against the other Harrison County teams, and this is what it stacks up like for this year. Caddis has 4 guys in double digits, and Conotton, good Scio have 3. Lakeland only has 2, but what's highly unusual about that is Lakeland won 18-2. You know what I mean? So they actually had a better team record-wise. They were a lot deeper team, but they had about 9 players playing. The last box score I'm doing, and then I'll entertain questions, and you can visit amongst yourselves. There's a few other slides that have some really neat stuff on it, and I just have them on there to play in case you want to watch it. This is like a replay of the '69 game. There's no league title or anything, because neither team's in the league. The Lakeland's 14-1, they go over to Conotton Valley, and they get beat by 1, because they can't shoot free throws. You go 5-17. Lakeland's up by 5 going in the last quarter. Today, this year is the first year you get 2-shot fouls. You know what I mean? And then the double bonus that we have now, once you got to 10, back in those days, you got a 1-1. Team fouls you, you miss it, another team, and they get the rebound. It's sort of like a turnover. You know what I mean? So, but this is another one of those skating room crowd onlys, and I'm sure that any of the folks from Conotton Valley would remember it. Like I said, whenever you have a good team, and you happen to be one of the guys that beat them that year, Lakeland had 3 losses. And in Valley South, we went on to be state champions. Conotton Valley, and they'd lose in the district championship games to the Rose Cranes by 2, 53-51. And in that one, Lakeland had 3 chances to tie the game. But a feather in the cap to the 71-72 Conotton Valley teams. These postseason honors up through 71 have all league. There's no all tournament anymore, even though I got that headed now. Then in 72 and 73, the News Herald named it all mythical team. And it was actually kind of good because they added Buckeye West and Madison in on it too, so you still, pulling in 6 or 7 teams to name the honor, so it's not like watering it down any. So this goes up through the 72 team season and 73 because Keith Custer, who actually played on the 70 and 71 Scio teams, he ended up playing on through 73, making honors. These are all Ohio players, and then there'll be coming up some individual stuff about guys that set great individual marks, such as the scoring marks, which Bob Q has, the Harrison County record is 60 points, and then school highs, points scored or whatever. But these are the guys that made all honorable mention for all Ohio, and then if they got the superscript by them, the white 2, that means they were named twice, as you can see, and I got the years there for it. And there's more than what you'd think. If you talk to some people, they would say, well, there's not that many, but there is. And the Scio, when Coach Samuels is there, they're going to sectional all the time. That's every one of the Scio is all Ohio was named during his coaching career. And then over Freeport, Coach Dazowski coached over there from 53 to 63. And you know, if you have a coach that's here a long time and you have a good program, you can get players named all the time. So then if you want to take, you know, you can't do it for the 20s and 30s, but if you want to take a name all-time team, the guys with the superscript who could do it well. Obviously, you start with Bob Hugh, and Dick Hugh, Denny Leister, Nick Pushberry, and Lanny Smith. They were both all named, you know, at least twice all Ohio, honorable mention Ohio, or higher. These are the individual efforts I was talking about. And there are some 30-30 games. Bob Hugh, his photo will be coming up later, had 3 games over 50. He has the county record at 60. And some of these numbers are just astronomical. It's like Ripley's Believe It or Not. So, you know, and there'll be other slides coming up listing all the county tournament scores for all 3 of these schools, the sectional scores. You can keep watching this, or if somebody has questions, we can open that up. And if you want to get up and visit or look at my books or are interested in those, we can do that too. Or you can just sit and relax and watch the rest of this. There's a few more slides there, but they're all coming up. But like Kenny Beamer, you know, there's 30-30 games. Dan Brown, I only listed 1 game. He had the 4 games over 50 that we saw earlier. And his game there was kind of unique because it was a 50-30 game, which you just don't see that much. I'm sure there's a few other ones around, but they're going to be few and far between. Tom Crosswhite, they played and lost against the Conotton Valley team in 65. I think I found 4 or 5 games that he had 30-30 games in. You know, of course he was 6'8". Was he 6'8" or only 6'6"? Tom Crosswhite. He's pretty big too. 6'8" without his shoes on. How about that? His shoes on, he's 6'10". But these are their all-time. We had the individual great efforts, and each of the teams' season high or single game highs, and we had to go down all the way to 106 to get the Franklin's school record. So then I just listed all the other team schools games that they had above that. That Jewett Franklin game, they must have been playing make it take it because they scored 134 points.
No defense.
Yeah, right.
Actually, Dale Edwards averaged 34 games for Franklin that year, but he was sick and missed that game with the flu. Seriously. So that's my presentation. It's going to come up here. Keep running. You're welcome to turn a light on, visit, or watch this. They'll list every of these schools, Jewett, Scio, Conotton Valley. We're going to bring it up to the county scores. It'll show all their sectional scores and then highlight that they're tournament, sectional district tournament.
That's Bobby.
I would like to point out, if you know anybody else, we have
Charlie was
Coach
his dad.
Earl Jacobs,
Charlie was
Conotton Valley, 63-64, up through 65-66.
Bobby.
Then he went to North
He
Richmond.
played his freshman, sophomore year.
And we have E.D. Shoemaker over here, class of 45 in Scio, Ohio.
His junior and senior. But that was Bobby's.
Yeah, we have a dealing school for you, Harry Horseman. I recognize him. Is there anybody else that played that tournament before?
That's where they made that.
Gene Regis is back there, yeah. I remember you ended up getting the book because you told me you played against the 65 team, right? And he told me, actually talked to you on the phone, you said you was always in the scoring title with Fred Simpson from Lakeland. So you got a book, and did you enjoy it? I know Coach Jacobs had one. It's pretty focused to Harrison County only, but it's extremely detailed, and I'm kind of happy to have it over in the Harrison County Library, you know what I mean? Because it's and like I said, there's an index in there of surnames. of relatives and stuff you can look up. And every year I have to count tournament scores and all those mythical teams. And even when I said like 1946, the time people started naming mythical teams, those are all listed. And William Intelligence started in 68. The Associated Press started down the East District team in 64. We had a District 5 team. I mean, I know most of them. That's what I do.
My brother graduated with ED down here.
Anybody else? Do you play? All right, just checking. Well, I think it's great you guys came. I've got to talk to Jake Jim up at Elwood one time. Remember that?
Carl, anybody around here know me but Carl?
And I have been looking at your buddy, my brother, up there. Juice bubble.
Cattle for her. Yeah. Did they have a farm out there? Still have it.
Yeah, when you guys played the tournament with Lorraine Admiral team. Bubble? Yeah. So I looked into that. Actually, cool. Believe me, I don't leave any stone unturned. Oh yeah. But they were 38. Black. Right. That's what I thought. Anybody have any questions about the book? I have the state tournament one out here that I just finished. It covers 56 to 70. I'm going to be doing all the years before that and up to the 4 division era probably. We've got the Harrison County book that I did. It's a lot of detail. It's like I say, it's a reference book. And I've done the Tuscarawas County as well. And I have all those. Yeah. See that guy right down there? When I went to a dive the day, the lady told me, is your dad going to come back with me? I go, that's my younger brother. I don't know what that does for you, but are you going to bring your dad back with you next time? I go, Mark, I guess he called you my dad. I go, I hated him. He's my younger brother. Any questions about any game? And any of the slides I went over, I know I went quick, but the idea is to get you interested in this and try to look at it because, I mean, the Bowerston Jewett girls didn't do that well, but every year, all the scores they could find in the rosters are listed in here too. So, you know, the grandparents, could be great grandparents, but every year when you go through the rosters and listen to the schedules and results, cheerleaders, stuff like that. Before we started tonight, I ran the cheerleader slide up there in 1950 through 71. We started naming the best cheerleader squads. The Piedmont Lake and Marina. Were you Scio or Hopedale? Nah. The Hopedale won 8 of them. They won 5 of the first 6, and then Freeport Lakeland ended up winning 10. But every school won one. If you recall, Hopedale never won a county tournament. When they won 80. But the Tippecanoe, I actually knew a guy over there that graduated there from 38, and I asked him if Tippecanoe ever had a nickname, and he said they never did. You know what I mean? So I was hoping for some great, name here. And the Titan, Tippecanoe Titan, and I don't think the Moorfield ever had one. Although I know Germano had a junior high later, and people have told me their nickname was the Indians, Germano Indians. But I don't know when they had the high school teams playing in the early 30s if they were called. Well, the fact is, Hopedale didn't take Comets till 1947, and Freeport didn't take Red Raiders till 1940. So you didn't always have, like I'd say, the Hopes, the Hopedale they called the Hopes. You know what I mean? I think it's funny that Jewett's near Sherricksville and they're both called the Wildcats. Franklin's the Bobcats. You Scio fans coming up here, are there county tournament scores? They played 8 overtime games and won 7 of them. I taught down there. Yeah, I taught the American.
Mr. Shoemaker?
History of American baseball down there.
What years did you play?
Yeah, I did it, man.
1945.
I was just asking, man.
Graduated.
Yeah. What's your
Played 2 years, but it was not. We didn't do that well.
what's your favorite basketball memory from high school?
Pardon me?
What's your favorite basketball memory from high school?
Oh, man.
Really hard, wasn't it?
I have a lot of them, but it's hard to spend the time to talk about it. I think the fact that
Hey, Harry.
we got along well. And,
Hold up.
I enjoyed
Hey, Sandy.
watching Eddie's husband, Rob Hugh.
Mrs. Hugh, maybe, and then Earl Jacobs. That would be a, I think it's
Been going to college for that time.
anybody else here?
How you doing?
Thanks for coming this evening. The
Things you don't think about very much.
what years did you coach at Conotton?
Oh,
Yeah.
late 50s, I can't. I don't remember last year, 60, 62, 63, 64, I think.
That before Al Kennedy was the assistant coach.
Al was my assistant.
Al was your assistant.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think he was the head coach after I left.
Yeah, he was a principal up there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did he go to Florida? Somebody told me that. I talked to him. You know, his second wife died. And she fell and hit her head on a bathtub or something.
Yeah.
I think after that he went to Florida.
What's your best memories of coaching for the Rockets? Do you have any favorites?
For what?
Coaching for Conotton Valley, do you have a favorite game or a good memory or?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of good memories. I don't know. I think we were 30-0 in Brady for 3 years. We might have lost a game. I don't know.
Have you been up to see the new gym?
No.
It's amazing.
Take care, will you?
Yeah, very glad to see you. For the book.